And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And I've spent this week that I've had off around Christmas, it's been great, but I've been spending it reorganizing my MP3 collection because this is just what I do. Now, I'm wanting it to work better with a Jellyfin media server, okay, which is great. But even better is this has given me a chance to go back and listen to a lot of music that I have not heard in years. Okay, because I've been ripping my CDs and stuff to MP3 for 20, 30 years, something. It's been a long time. Okay, first it was to I obviously I'd make mixtapes and mix CDs, but then when you could burn MP3s to CD, because I had a portable CD player that would do that, or that would play MP3s off CD, I started, oh yeah, this is great. I can fit hundreds of songs on this CD, and this will be great. So I've been doing that for years, and my organization has been shaky at best. No, it hasn't been too bad, but it's been a little messy. As I've been going on, and of course been doing this more over as I've just been going on over the years, I've realized that there's been a lot of music that I've used to listen to that I don't anymore, or that I just totally forgot about, right? And it was a trip down memory lane hitting some of this music again. Now, some of it, so there's a lot that I don't listen to because my tastes have changed, right? When I was in high school and early college, man, I had Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill on repeat, right? That whole album, man, I would listen to that all the freaking time. That, Evanescence, Green Day, Avril Lavigne, man, they were staples on my playlists. And now, except for a couple of songs here and there, they're not for me anymore, right? They're just too hard, too heavy, too loud, right? This is the sign that I'm getting old, is the music is just too loud. Okay. And it is not a volume issue. Okay. It's just, yeah. And there are definitely a few of those tracks. It's like, man, I used to love this. I can't stand this anymore. Right. And then there's some that honestly, my tastes have just changed. Right. Speaking of things I used to listen on repeat, I had a CD of Paul Simon's greatest hits. Right. And Paul Simon, aside from being really mellow, which is great, right? But a lot of his music is it's just different. Okay. I don't want to like put a negative label. Oh, it's weird, or it's a different flavor, perhaps is the way to put it. And I'm just not into it anymore. Right. Billy Joel was the same way. I got it was a 2-disc set of Billy Joel's greatest hits. And he had a lot of them. He did a lot of great music. And there was a bunch of it I used to listen to all the time, and I loved it. And now, again, except for a song or two here or there, I am just not into it anymore. And that's okay. That is just fine, because the reality is we're changeable beings, right? We're not the type of person who, I'm not the type of person. Humanity in general is not the type of a creature to be the same way their entire lives. Now, yes, there is music I've liked since I was a kid, and I still like now. That's going to be a thing. But that doesn't mean that there aren't tastes that I used to have that I no longer have. On the other hand, as I said, there's a lot of music that I have that I've listened to forever. But there's some that I totally forgot that I had. And man, I started playing those tracks because it says I'm going through and reorganizing things, and most of it was fairly straightforward, but there's some it's like, oh dude, I forgot about that one. And these were songs that I listened to all the time, and for just some reason, maybe I got tired of it when I was younger, right? At some point, it's like I had listened to it all the time. It's like, okay, I'm done with the song for a while. And some of it was taste changing a little bit, and some of it was just, yeah, I'm tired of it. But things like the song King of Wishful Thinking by Go West. Man, I used to listen to that song all the freaking time. Or Invisible Touch by Genesis, right? And dude, some of those tracks come on. Invisible Touch is one of them that as soon as it comes on, I can just feel myself. I'm back at at my my Commodore 64 or in front of my Nintendo or Super Nintendo, because that was music that was just on all the time. It was on the radio. It was part of their playlist, and man, it just takes me back to those days, man. And there's a bunch of that stuff. Said, hey, you remember Tiffany? I think she had. I can't remember if she had one album or actually had a second album. But man, I had that on cassette. And sadly, it was one of those cassettes I never converted to CD. I had a bunch of actually. It was Amy Grant. Of course, I heard of her songs. Or at least I was introduced to her through the radio, which is not uncommon. And man, I didn't have her entire discography, but I probably had 4 or 5 of her CDs from her crossover album, and then back when she was a Christian artist. And I had a bunch of those, man. I listened to those all the time. I think I have one song. Okay. It's just like I've definitely lost some of that. But man, I was going through some of the stuff, and it's some of these tracks, some I still listen to and I have for a while. Like Madonna had a lot of great songs in the 80s, and there are some I still enjoy. And that's fine. It's wonderful. And yeah, they definitely take me back. Or what was it? Pearl Jam, right? Pearl Jam is not a band that I listen to regularly these days. Mostly because they fall into most of their songs are too hard for my tastes. But hearing some of those, what was it? Better Man, I think, is one I was thinking of here just yesterday. And man, that is a hardcore, whoop, I am back in high school song, right? Or Two Princes by the Spin Doctors. Okay, fun song. And that one sticks out for me because when I was in high school, they started up I was in a band, unsurprisingly, in marching band, but they started up we had a pep band. Okay, so we had the marching band, and we went to the football games, but then they set up a separate pep band to go play at the basketball games. And when we did that, we had a whole new genre of music. Maybe genre is the wrong word, but we had a whole new set of music. Okay. And yeah, one of the songs we played was Two Princes by the Spin Doctors. Right? This is all sorts of music that, man, I listen to, and dude, I am right back there. Okay. And it was like, there's some, not only does it take me back to high school, it takes me back to specific times. It's like, yep, nope, this is my dating life right here. Right? These are songs that, yep, I remember listening to when I was driving to my girlfriend's house, or when I'm sitting in my dorm room and thinking about the woman who would eventually become my wife, right? And it was songs like True by Ryan Cabrera, or How Many Days Collide, or Foreigners Until the End of Time, right? Right? These are songs that would just jump out. It's like, yep, these are the songs that are definitely emphasizing that, hey, dude, you are in love with a wonderful person, and yep, this is just gonna go. And it's surprising, some of them. It's like Ace of Base, which was known for, they were a late 80s dance band, right? They had great songs like A Beautiful Life and boy, why am I blanking on the whole discography of all this stuff, right? But they also had the song Angel Eyes, which I'll tell you, man, again, talking about songs on repeat, that one, Celine Dion's It's All Coming Back to Me Now, those ones, shoot, man, those brought me back to all of that time when it's like, yes, there's a girl and she likes me and I'm gonna go see her again and it's gonna be awesome and we're gonna like, maybe we're gonna like kiss and stuff. It's gonna be cool. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I was all over those. And there are some that stuck with me for various reasons. Okay. So, I mean, there was one song by Tim McGraw who he did a song called Don't Take the Girl. Now, I wasn't much into country at the time. And my taste it's weird. My tastes have gone back and forth, right? Where sometimes it's like when I was in school, sorry for the digression, but it's fun. When I was in school, you know, the pop station was early 80s. So we're talking about hair bands and some of that stuff. And I had a phase where I just cut all of that off. I was just listening to the light rock station. So it's a lot of Michael Bolton and Amy Grant and yes, Phil Collins and some of his lighter things and Billy Joel and Paul Simon, right? And then I came back, but there was some country songs that actually had crossed over onto the pop station as well. Don't Take the Girl was one of them. And if you've never heard this song, it's a sad song, but a song of connection and love and all of the stuff that it hit me hard when I was dating, right? Because, right, so again, if you've not heard it, like a lot of country, it tells a story. And it starts with this kid who he's all excited. He's going to go fishing with his dad. And this girl shows up just before they leave with a fishing pole. And he's like, no, Dad, I'll do anything you want. Just don't take the girl. And then it fast forwards a few years. And now it's this kid's in high school with the same girl and they're dating. And they come out of a movie and they get held up, right? Guy tries to rob them. And the boy is like, no, look, I'll give you anything you want. Just don't take the girl. Fast forwards again, same boy, same girl. They're in the hospital. She's pregnant. She's having problems with the pregnancy. And now he's in the waiting room. And this is his prayer as he's praying to God. Says, whatever happens, take me instead, but don't take the girl. And then it fast forwards. It's the same boy. Now he's a father with his young son, and he's taking his son fishing, right? As you watch the circle turn. And when I was in high school, this hit me with all of the feels for the love for this boy had for this girl. Well, when I was in college, I just got married, and we had just had our first child, my oldest daughter, and we had a car crash on the way back to college. And I'm sitting there in the hospital. My wife had broken ribs and a concussion, but my daughter, who was just days old, was hooked up to more machines than any person should ever have to be hooked up to. And that was the song going through my head because that was exactly what I felt. Unfortunately, God did take the girl. My daughter died in that crash. But that's one of those songs that, yes, I when I listen to it, I still hear that the connection of my dating life, right? But I also hear that connection with my daughter, right? And I still listen to it because it is still a great song about love and connection and all of that. But to come back from my digression, um, music was weird when I was growing up. It again was growing up in the '80s, right? And the pop music was strange, right? You're coming out of disco, right? Disco died, and they're trying to figure out what's coming back or what's replacing it. And now you're getting the beginning stages of hard rock. Metal was a thing. I never liked metal. I was never one who was into Metallica, or any of the hair bands that went towards metal. So Metallica, Poison, Van Halen, were never my jam. Okay. Bon Jovi, on the other hand, who was more rock than metal, I was all over. Okay. I liked Bon Jovi. The pop stations, again, they weren't into the metal as much, but you know, they were playing the new rock. But there was this weird period where I don't know that pop music as a genre knew what it was, okay? Because there was a little bit of everything, and it was awesome. Because you'd sit and listen to the top 40 station or just the regular pop station, you would hear Genesis and Phil Collins, of course, was the lead singer of Genesis. But anyway, at least the lead singer after Peter Cetera. I don't know. Remember. Anyway, you also had Peter Cetera. But so you had Phil Collins, and you had Madonna, and you had Pearl Jam, and you had Nirvana, right? Because you had grunge that was starting to show up, right? That whole scene. But you also had CNC Music Factory and Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch and DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince and Run DMC, right? Because you had the early stages of hip hop and rap. Okay. And it's I like dance music, right? I like EDM. I like the old school hip hop and dance. Like I said, I like CNC Music Factory, and I like Marky Mark. But all of that was cool because it was, you know, just high energy. It was fun. It was great. And rap then sort of went off and became sort of gangster rap, and I was not into that at all. But I was missing all of that high energy dance music, right? Because yeah, there were pop songs that were peppy and stuff, but there's a difference between, I don't know, some of those. I'm trying to think of one now that's like, yeah, it's sort of fast, and but it's not the same. It doesn't have that same groove, I guess. And it was great when I then came back now 30 years later and stumbled into K-pop and all that, just EDM in general. It's like, oh, this is what's been missing from my life, right? As I go back, it's like, this is the root of my musical tastes in a lot of ways. As all of this early hip hop that just isn't there anymore, or wasn't there for a long time. It's so fascinating because there's a lot of those tracks I go back and listen to, and they're memories. They're memories of, yes, when I was a kid, but memories of my parents in a lot of ways. Okay, because unsurprisingly, when I was riding in the car with my parents, they listened to their music. Okay, I know you're all shocked that they would listen to their music in the car, not mine. Okay, so mom was, of course, all about the oldies, quote unquote oldies, right? All of those tracks I was talking about just a couple of minutes ago are oldies at this point, right? I mean, The oldies was music from 30 years ago, right? Because we're in the 80s. So we're talking about the 50s and the 60s, 20 and 30 years ago. What was 20 and 30 years ago? It was Madonna and DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And yeah, Will Smith is still making music, but the Fresh Prince would be considered oldies these days, right? But no, it was... So we listened to a lot of Elvis and the Beach Boys and the Monkees and Neil Diamond and Chubby Checker, right? All of these fun things, you know. And some of those stuck, right? I had so many cassettes of the Beach Boys. Sadly, I didn't get most of those converted to CD, and so I'm missing a lot of those tracks from my life. But man, the Beach Boys were so much fun. And I was watching a documentary about the Beach Boys on Disney Plus, which was an interesting documentary because I didn't know the history of the band. I also didn't realize the Beach Boys was in a lot of ways two different bands. A lot of the same people in it, but they had basically a recording band and a performing, traveling concert band. And it was like 2 or 3 of the brothers were in it all the time, but then they had a few other people, you know, that were with them as they would do their concerts. It was an interesting thing. And apparently there was a bit of a rivalry between the Beach Boys and the Beatles because they kept trading the number one spot back and forth. Totally different flavors of music, right? Because you're talking about the British invasion, right? The Beatles were the biggest name, but not the only name of the way music was going there in the 60s. And the Beach Boys were the fun American band, right? And I have to admit, I like the Beach Boys more than the Beatles. Okay. There are a couple of Beatles songs I have, but for the most part, I'm not a fan of the Beatles. But dang, you fire up the little old lady from Pasadena, and I am right there with you, right? Surfing Safari, all that stuff. I'm not part of the surfing culture. Never was. Neither were the Beach Boys. But hey, you know, it's all good. It was fun, and I loved it, right? The Monkees were great, right? Another singer. It was interesting. He had a couple of songs I liked when I was a kid, but it's like, no, he's old person music. And that was Neil Diamond. And it wasn't until I got older and listened to some of that music again and realized, dude, this guy was amazing, and he has this voice that is just out of this world. And some that I listened to that, like Neil Diamond's song "Play Me," that's a song. I love the way he uses the lyrics. I love, because I'm a big fan of people who use words in amazing ways. It's one of the reasons I love Lord of the Rings. Yes, it's a dense series of books, but man, Tolkien does amazing stuff with the English language. Neil Diamond is sort of the same way. And yeah, sure, you've got some of his more poppy songs like "Coming to America" and stuff like that, but man, "Play Me" is just one of those songs that just reached out and grabbed my soul. Okay. And it's one of those, yeah, I heard a lot with my mom. My dad was an entirely different beast, okay? Well, my mom was into 50s and 60s rock and roll. My dad was into 50s and 60s country and western. And some of it was good, some of it was not. But he also sort of introduced me to show tunes. Because it was funny. I grew up watching movies with my dad. And we watched a lot of westerns and war movies, okay? A lot of westerns and war movies. You know, it was John Wayne, it was World War II. We were, you know, pick one, but we were sometimes pick both. You know, we watched a lot of those. But Dad was also into musicals, and I had no clue, right? No, I mean, it's not entirely true because he had a whole section of musicals on his shelf. We just didn't watch them very often. But darn it, we listened to a lot of those songs. And there was a song that he had on his, because he'd make mixtapes as well, and he had a song that would come up often. The song was "The Impossible Dream" from the musical A Man of La Mancha. And A Man of La Mancha, or the Man of La Mancha, is it's the story of Don Quixote and the impossible dream, or the quest, it's also called. It's him explaining what does a knight do? Why is he a knight? What motivates him as a knight errant, as he sally forth to right all wrongs? And he sings this song about, being willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause, right? To fight for the right, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to basically help people when there's no one else to help them. This is his quest. And this song bored me to tears when I was a kid. Okay? It was just slow and boring. And I love it now. As I've gotten older, and I see why my dad liked it. Because my dad in a lot of ways, yes, he's the type who would side with the dragon. But he was also, I think he saw himself very often as a knight. And yes, he was a knight in blue with a badge. But I think he saw himself that way in some ways, is that he was the type to go help when no one else could. It's crazy. As I said, I was going back and finding songs that I had forgotten about. And there are some, it's like, dude, where did this come from? And why did I forget about this song? Songs like Even Angels Fall by Jessica Riddle, or Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue Something. Dude, I loved these songs. And somehow they just didn't make it onto my current playlist. And it has been literal decades since I've listened to these songs. And it's like, why did I forget about these? These songs were amazing. Or Here Without You by Three Doors Down. Now, a lot of Three Doors Down ended up falling into some of that. It's a little heavy for my taste. But that one was fabulous, right? Another one that had no business being as good as it was. There was a game for the Super Nintendo called Killer Instinct. And it was a fighting game, okay? I think they still make variations of the Killer Instinct franchise. But this is one of those games that came out at the height of Mortal Kombat, right? You had Mortal Kombat, you had Combat 2, and you had a whole bunch of this new fighting genre. And Killer Instinct was the other one that really took off, okay? There are a few others. Street Fighter, I guess, was number 2. Killer Instinct was number 3, something along those lines, right? I could be wrong on the numbers, but those were the big franchises, right? And I spent a lot of time with my friend. We were playing Mortal Kombat, but Killer Instinct came out. And, dude, we were all about Killer Instinct. And I liked it a little bit better in some ways because I think that the controls made a little bit more sense. Or at least they were not quite as finicky, right? I played a lot of Mortal Kombat, especially Mortal Kombat 2, okay? And in Mortal Kombat 2, I liked playing as Sub-Zero, sometimes Johnny Cage, because I could do the combos for those. The other ones were just bizarre. But at least with Sub-Zero, it was mostly just a quarter turn, right? Well, Killer Instinct had similar controls, but there were a couple that it's like, man, I have these guys down. I was never especially good, but at least I was good enough that, my friend and I were relatively evenly matched. And one of the characters I liked was this skeleton. I forgot the name of the character, but he was the skeleton with this, looks like a stone sword and a shield, and he was really cool. But on his level, right, at each of the levels, there was this music track of, that for the character. And Rare put out an album of all of those tracks. And dude, they had no need to go that hard, but they did. And there were a couple of tracks on there. My favorite is called Tooth and Claw, which happens to be the track for my skeleton character that I liked. And it is a combination of, I don't know, it's like early 90s dance, electronica, and like Mozart. Because it pulled in all of the fun Baroque harpsichord weirdness into this, and I loved the mashup, and it was so good. So good was Tooth and Claw. And it's just one of those tracks that's like, dude, why has this not been on my playlist? Right? There were so many of those that I went back and it's like, man, I've missed this. Or there's some it's like, I remember liking this song. I don't now, but I remember when I liked this song. It's a long project. I still have more to do, but I've finished the first draft, so to speak. I've got most of it sorted. Now I get to go back and make sure, did I actually get it all right? Did I miss any? Right? All that fun stuff. But it was such a wonderful journey back into my past in a lot of ways. Because as much as I call my channel Music Free, in this case Music Free Static, it's not because I don't like music. Right? It's not. In this case, the podcast is named for an old radio show that my dad used to do when he was in college, when he was a DJ. So, yeah, that's, and it was a joke about how low-powered the radio station was, that it would bring you hours of music-free static. Music was very much part of my life. And whether it was the 1812 Overture, which my dad listened to a lot, or the Beach Boys, or Neil Diamond, or Madonna, or Foreigner, or Pearl Jam, or Avril Lavigne, or Evanescence, or any of these bands that I listened to so much, and they were part of my life, right? If I wasn't watching a movie, I was listening to music. I usually, it would be on the background, whether I was playing out on a console or on a computer or doing homework or reading or anything. I had music on. It was very much a part of my life. And going back and listening to some of those songs, it takes me back to a part of my life. And yes, some of my childhood wasn't great, but the music was. Let me know, what music was part of your childhood that helped shape you? No, shape you. You shouldn't be ashamed of your musical tastes, okay? Unless you like that one song, in which case, no. What music shaped you as you were growing up? What music did you forget about that you've recently rediscovered? It's like, oh yeah, I remember this. This was the jam when I was a kid, right? Let me know. Drop a comment on YouTube or on Spotify, and let me know what music was so much part of your personality and your childhood, and heck, your adulthood. I'm game. Let me know what's your jam. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.